Helpful for life.
Now, let's talk about the easiest way to clean your oven, the self-clean. One disclaimer before we get started though, do not use oven cleaner chemicals on self-cleaning ovens. It can damage the coating that is what makes those self-cleaning ovens so effective. Now back to your specially featured programming. So you may have heard about self-clean or seen that shiny button on your oven. Here's what it does. It will lock your oven and then crank it up screaming hot. That's about 900 to 1000 degrees Fahrenheit, and it will keep that temperature for a few hours. By the way, for reference, I'm about 500 degrees Fahrenheit, so it's even hotter than I am. Anyways, after it's been sitting at that high temperature for a long time, that basically incinerates any gunk and crap that's inside your oven. The last step is to simply let your oven cool down a little bit and then wipe it clean with a clean, damp cloth. All that will be in there is ash, and you may have some white spots in there. Those white spots, according to selfcleaningovens.com, yes, a website entirely about self-cleaning ovens. Anyways, those white spots are salt deposits, and they're there because salt doesn't vaporize until an even higher temperature. If those salt deposits don't come off with the wipe of the cloth, you can simply use a plastic scraper to scrape them off. And that's it. That's how you self-clean an oven. It's really that simple and easy. Now let me give you some tips, warnings, and background info so you can impress your friends. Or maybe you can use it as a pickup line for your next date. If you get married, I expect an invite. Okay, Reed, just how magical is this self-clean cycle? It's pretty freaking magical. I mean, it takes a very labor-intensive job that involves a lot of blood, sweat, and tears, and it turns it into an easy job that's just a press of a button and a quick, simple wipe of a cloth. I wish marriage was that easy. That being said, it's still an oven. It's not a crematorium. So if your oven has a lot of buildup, you're gonna wanna do some cleaning by hand before you do the self-clean cycle. Otherwise, you could end up with a lot of smoke and maybe even a fire. Got it. Is there any other work I need to do before I start the self-clean cycle? Yes, if you have an oven liner or any aluminum foil in there, make sure to take it out. Oh, and you also may wanna take the racks out. They could discolor, warp, and the finish could be affected. They could also be a little harder to slide in and out after the self-clean cycle. So the official advice is to follow the manufacturer recommendations for the racks, but you can do a little bit of research and figure out what the risks are and decide if it may be worth leaving them in. That way you don't have to clean the racks all by themselves, separately. That's no fun. A replacement rack is roughly $20, so it may be worth the risk to you. If you want to do a little more research, here's a good site to get you started. One fun fact that you'll learn if you go to that website is that you can even use the self-clean cycle to clean some of your dishes. Man, that makes Thanksgiving sound a lot easier. However, don't go doing this willy-nilly with all of your dishes. If you do this with the wrong type of dishes or pans, not only could it damage your dishes or pans, it could also release some toxic fumes, which may not be very safe for you. Take out the oven liner, aluminum foil, maybe do some pre-cleaning, and maybe take out the racks. Got it. Anything else I need to know before starting? Yes, be smart about when you do the oven cleaning cycle. I mean a couple things by that. The first one is be home when you do this. I don't want something to go wrong while it's doing the self-cleaning cycle and you not be there to handle it. The other thing is that the oven gets really hot and it takes multiple hours. So you probably don't want to do that in the middle of a hot summer day because it may make your kitchen a little hotter. Easy enough, but what about the fumes and the smoke? I hear self-cleaning ovens can kill entire families. Well, no, silly, that shouldn't happen. The self-clean cycle is essentially just burning off all the stuff that's inside, not creating some random toxic fumes. You may have read or heard something about the lining of the oven releasing some toxic fumes, but that's just plain false. The oven is made to withstand those temperatures and probably even hotter, so don't worry your little head about it too much. If you want to minimize the risk and minimize the smell, you can turn on the exhaust fan and maybe even open a window, but you don't necessarily need to do that. Of course, I will use this time to remind you that you should always have smoke detectors and carbon monoxide detectors in your house. And by that, I mean you should have working, functioning detectors that have their batteries in and they're turned on. One last safety warning for you. If you have a pet bird, you should know that they are more sensitive to things in the air than we humans are. Hence the phrase, canary in a coal mine. The whole idea was that something would be wrong with the bird before something was wrong with the humans. So you may want to move your pet birds away from the kitchen as you're doing the self-clean cycle just like you want to keep your birds away from the kitchen anytime you're cooking. Speaking of things floating in the air, I've heard of this like self-clean steam cycle or something like that. Yes, some ovens do have a steam self-clean cycle. What this does, you basically pour some distilled water on the bottom of the oven, and then the oven will raise to a temperature above 212 degrees Fahrenheit, the boiling temperature of water. Then the combination of hot water on the bottom with the steam flowing throughout will soften up all of the gunk inside, which will make cleaning and scraping it off a little easier. This will not, however, incinerate everything on the inside like the regular self-clean cycle does. Cool, but will the self-cleaning oven break my oven? As we were doing research on self-cleaning ovens, we did read on some sites that certain ovens had issues when using the self-cleaning cycle. Their claims were, especially for ones that have a hidden lower element, was that the oven would get too hot that it would damage the electronics in the oven. If you're worried about that, you can do a quick search online for your specific oven or manufacturer, but the oven is designed to do this. It would be pretty poor design if the oven broke when you're using it how it was intended to be used. So it's pretty low on my personal list of concerns. Oh man, that's a lot more about self-cleaning ovens than I ever thought I'd know. Yeah, me too. But if for whatever reason you want to know some more, go to the site selfcleaningovens.com. For whatever reason, this engineer made an educational website all about self-cleaning ovens. I don't know why an engineer would make an educational website. That's just weird. Anyways, he's done research, he's talked to oven companies, and he doesn't just parrot advice without first doing some fact checking. So I haven't done an in-depth analysis of the site, but it was one of the better ones I found when I was doing my research. Well, that's enough about the self-clean. What about the other methods?